Now, this week, because we've run a bit over time and we had some extra stuff to get away with Zelko Kalatz's move to Greece, of course, we're going to skip our overseas segments and we will be doing a more in-depth look at the Premier League in particular next week. But for now, we're going to move on to our final segment and our very special guest in Footballers' Lives.
Footballers' Lives.
So joining us today via Zoom from Edinburgh in Scotland is Ryan McGowan, who's just won the A-League Grand Final with Sydney FC. That's created, I don't know if you know this, a little piece of history, along with his brother Dylan. They are now the only siblings to have won the A-League Championship with different clubs. And after Joel and Adam Griffiths, just the second pair of brothers to win the A-League. The Griffiths, of course, did it with the Jets back in 2008. Now, before returning to Australia as a player, Ryan, who hails from Adelaide, of course, played in Scotland for Hearts, then moved on to China with Shandong Luneng, back to Scotland with Dundee United, back to China with Henan Zhanya and Guizhou Zhisheng, then the UAE with Al Sharjah, then to England with Bradford City, back to Scotland briefly for a loan with Dundee, before finally making his first senior appearance in his homeland at the start of the season just gone. That game, of course, just happened to be in Adelaide, and to top it all, he scored a last-minute winner. Of course he did. He's won 20 caps for Australia, played the 2014 World Cup, and he's known to most as Gowser, I think. How are you, Gowser? Good to see you, mate.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much for getting up so early in the morning for us over there in Scotland. I know that you had to leave your newborn daughter over there to return to Australia and go into the hub with Sydney FC, so you must be delighted to be back in the UK to be able to see her.
Yeah, just had to reintroduce myself and let her know that I'm not just a phone, really. She's only seen me from the phone, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good being back. Pretty much left on the Tuesday after the grand final, so sobered up for the flight and got the long flight over, and yeah, daddy daycare since then.
And the grand final, Ryan, a tough game. I think probably Melbourne City would have found defeat tough to take, but do you think that over the course of the 120 minutes you were the better team overall? And then you can tell us about the big celebrations you had afterwards.
I thought it was a good game, to be honest. For a final, I thought it was pretty open. I thought both teams believed if they played the way they can play, they can win, which I think as a spectacle, you kind of really want to see. And I thought they started really well. Probably first 20 minutes were under the pump. But then after that, I think we just slowly kind of grew into the game and started getting our foothold on it. And possibly take out Glover and a couple of his saves, we could have possibly won it in normal time. And then extra time was a little bit, I felt like it was probably looking like penalties unless someone did something special. And yeah, lucky enough that Bratsy worked on a play that we've worked on all season, and Buster got in on the right and did a nice finish, and we could hold out and win.
Gowser, obviously the restart, Sydney FC probably didn't bounce back the way that you would have liked. So in terms of, mentally, obviously the squad that you do have, there's great experience within that squad. How, in terms of what was going through your mind in terms of that switch, and did you feel that you were able to turn that switch on? I mean, obviously you did, but that does play a part in football where sometimes after a run of bad results, it does put that element of doubt in people's heads.
Yeah, we were quietly confident, but at the same time, we did have a couple of meetings, and we spoke as a playing group in terms of it's all right saying to switch it on, but like you said, it's quite difficult to then switch it on. But I think a lot of it was a little bit circumstantial in terms of I think all the teams we played from the restart either had something to play for or kind of had to win when they played us, and we were also maybe slipped into that mindset of we had won it, and let's just sort of build ourselves up for the semi-final. We knew it would be a one-off game. And then again, the teams that we played, I think we played Newcastle Jets. They beat us second game in, and everyone said that's the best game that they've ever played. Then we played, can't remember now who we played. Like everyone that we seemed to play seemed to always have their best game. Them. Yeah. Knocking us off with being the premiers. Melbourne City, they beat us 2-0. And everyone was like, that was their best performance of the season. So we kind of came up against teams that were needing to either to win to make the six or win to finish second. And we probably took our eye off the ball looking in hindsight, but at the same time, we're also training well and maybe just results not going our way. And I thought the first half against Perth kind of blew them out the water. And and then obviously the grand final, most of us have been there or done that or played in big games before and know how to kind of handle that occasion, which we did perfectly.
Ryan, sorry, go on, Spider. Yep.
I knew yous would get to the grand final. I told everyone yous would get to the grand final.
He didn't back you, though.
Yeah,
I've been watching the podcast, so he's just lying. Just lied there for the first 30 seconds.
But, it is frustrating as a player, ain't it? When you keep here, so you've won the minor premiership, you've pissed it in, right? So all of a sudden, now yous are a shit team because yous have lost a few games. Was it irritating for the players to keep hearing the media, Sydney FC lose again, they're on the downward slide? And how did Bimby keep the dressing room? I know Bimby would have been quite strategic in the way he just wanted to keep everyone fit, but was it actually giving you guys a bit of aggression towards everyone? Because you didn't really heap the praise you deserved for winning the minor premiership so easily.
Yeah, a little bit. It was a little bit frustrating amongst the players in terms of, I think if we beat Newcastle Jets when we could have got presented the award, I think it was the second game back, we would have won the league with 5 games to go.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the season, there was a few people saying, if Melbourne City had won one more extra game, they would have only been 2 points behind. We felt a bit like, my grandma, what? Yeah, do you know what I mean? We've won it. Imagine if we beat Wanderers once, we would have won it with 6 games to go. So it was a little bit disrespectful in terms of that. And then we sort of switched our focus to, let's make sure our season's going to be defined by a semi-final and a one-off game. And to be honest, within the playing group, we're pretty relaxed in terms of knowing what we needed to do. I think the coaching staff was a little bit more not wanting us to rest on our laurels. And Bimby we'd sort of set some targets internally in terms of points and clean sheets and goals. So, he was pretty focused on trying to achieve those things, and kind of forget about the premiership. And that's what he wanted us to focus on in those kind of last 5 games. But at the end of the day, he also said we wanted to win both trophies and go back to back, which hasn't been done all that often. So, he was pretty delighted by the end of it, but I'm sure he was a little bit stressed halfway through the break coming back.
Ryan, I'm pleased you brought up the Wanderers there because, of course, your brother Dylan plays for Western Sydney. Did that help you sort of settle back into life in Australia? Because I know that I think you were literally next door neighbours where you lived in Sydney. And I'm sure Dylan reminds you or has reminded you that out of all the trophies you've won this season, you didn't beat the Wanderers in 3 attempts this season.
Yeah, it was pretty quick to remind me of that. And I think after the last game, when we drew, we were shaking hands afterwards, and he's like, you must be delighted to get a draw off us. I think you're about 17 points behind us, mate. It's enough for the comments after the game. But it was definitely good to settle in after being away for so long. And it's probably the first time we used to live together when we were at Hearts. And then after that,
remember that,
we've kind of went here, there and everywhere. The both of us, so it was good to be back in the same city and sort of settle down. But we both knew players from each club as well, which really helped us settle down and enjoy our seasons.
Gowser, I wanted to ask you a question, mate, because this is now the big talking point in terms of seasons finished, uncertainty about when we start again, player contracts. How has it been left with yourself and other players in terms of leaving the club for the remainder of the season? When do you come back? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think we're in a bit of a difficult or different situation from other clubs in terms of, I think we've got 21 players already signed for next year. So our squad's pretty much tied up in terms of, there's not many of us in the group that are leaving or have that uncertainty of other clubs or wondering who everyone's going to bring in. So on one hand, we're pretty solid in that situation. We're not worried about are they going to give us another year or what's going to happen. Probably the only uncertainty is no one knows when the season's going to start. I know a few clubs have kind of told their players they'll possibly have a 10 to 12 week lead in. Yeah. So whenever the season's announced, kind of work back from there on when you're due to report in. We sort of have the Champions League up in the air, so we have kind of no idea. It's kind of been expect a phone call once we know more, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. But I guess maybe more so my question is around about the uncertainty, the CBA still not being agreed. I know players potentially still have, as you said, 21 players still contracted for next season at Sydney FC. But is there still that uncertainty of all of a sudden you come back and now we're going to offer you something 20, 30% less of what you're expected to get?
Yeah, we'll still also have to wait for that phone call on on what you're going to get. So, yeah, I think my wife hates it because after the COVID break, you get the phone call to say, there's your 17, 20% plus job keepers, and you're due on a flight in a couple of days. And then after that, it's, when are you going back next? So I'm going to get a phone call of some kind of reduction, and it goes from there. So, I think obviously with the PFA and the people that be, they'll make the decision on what's best for the group. And I think it's also very difficult to make you're probably making a league decision on players who are all at different stages of their careers, at different financial points of their careers. So it's, what some players would take 30% and just be delighted to be playing in the A-League, and other players, possibly couldn't even take 30%. They'd have to look at something else. And, if you're a younger player and you're wanting to get out, clubs are going to have a difficult decision in terms of what they want to do and how the clubs want to go moving forward. And I'm just glad I'm not at that table trying to make those decisions.
Mate, at the moment anyway, Ryan, look at the bright side, mate. You're not scared to travel. So if they do give you a reduction, Zunth is only 2-hour flight from Scotland.
I'll meet you there.
Ryan,
mate, let me tell you, mate, it's warm here.
Probably warmer than Edinburgh. That's for the future, Ryan. I just want to dip into the distant past for a moment, if we can. Obviously, you spent a large chunk of your career in Scotland. You're very closely associated with that part of the world. Your family's originally from Scotland. The highlight of your career there was that famous Scottish Cup final, Hearts against Hibs. You're smiling even at my suggestion of that memory. And you scored in the 5-1 romp. Was that, along with the grand final win that you just played in, was that one of your best days in football?
Yeah, it'd definitely be up there. I think from a personal point of view, that was the club that I left, when I was 16, 17, left Adelaide. And, that was the first kind of club that gave me an opportunity, or I felt believed in me in terms of, they gave me the platform to go out there and try and be a professional footballer. And, it probably took me 3 or 4 years to get in the first team, and all the uncertainty in terms of, I think I went on loan 3 times, different managers, kind of finally break through into the first team, start playing regularly, and then we played in some big games. Played against Liverpool in the Europa League qualifiers, Tottenham in the Europa League qualifiers, beat Celtic in the semi-final, last minute penalty. Then go on to beat Hibs in the final, score. So it was just a kind of combination of 6-7 years of hard work and trying to make it, repaying the fans and the club back in terms of what they provided for myself in terms of platform and being able to be a professional footballer. And it's something that like every young or every club likes to see players coming through, and the club kind of took me in as one of their own. And even still now, only yesterday I keep getting stopped, or someone offered to buy me a pint and keeps talking about that day in May in the cup final. So it's still 8-9 years on, everyone still talks about it, which is
culture, Gowser. Culture, mate. That's the difference over
I'll
there.
buy you a beer.
Yeah. No, not so much to buy you the beer. It's just you're remembered because these supporters they give everything to their football club that they support, and mate, they don't forget. They don't forget moments like that. They won't forget that unbelievable victory and that you scored in the final. So you'll keep going back to Scotland years after years after years, and the same people will say it. But in terms of your playing career, we like to ask the player favourite stadium, favourite goal, and your best assist. I know what your best assist is because I've heard the story, but I'm sure some others haven't.
I've had a few assists, so I need to think about that one. But I've been lucky enough to play in a few great stadiums. Been very fortunate enough in my career to to have done as well as I have done, but I'd probably say probably Anfield in Europe. We had that Europa League qualifier. We got beat 1-0 at Tynecastle, and then we went 1-0 up in Anfield like last 5 minutes or so, and they'd put a pretty strong team out. Suarez, Gerrard, they had the few big boys at Anfield. So yeah, probably that goal in terms of our away fans and that chance of we could be taking Liverpool to extra time, and for 5 minutes we had that dream of the big cup upset, and then Suarez decided to just shoot that down and score in the last minute. We got knocked out in away goals, but yeah, that was probably one of the best atmospheres. Growing up in Adelaide, to think you would play against Liverpool, albeit a Europa League qualifier, was pretty special. And yeah, favourite goal would probably be I scored in a Chinese Cup final that Simon's not looked at. So yeah,
I've seen it.
Come on,
I've seen it. Don't worry, I've seen it.
So yeah, I was confident going into this grand final in terms of I played 3 grand finals and scored in 2. So now it's 2 and 4. So we only got
Good record, good form.
Right. But yeah, probably cup final against Hibs. It was a tap in, but I think what it meant and the whole day and experience, and like you said, everyone kind of remembers. You can ask any Hearts fan; they can probably rattle off the starting 11 and the subs and what minute everyone scored in. So that's it's a pretty proud moment to be associated with. And then probably greatest assist was I had a good cross in China when I was playing for Shandong against Jiangsu. So that was probably my best assist.
So you surprised me there. I was waiting for that.
Hang on.
I was waiting.
We've got to go to a Twitter question here, and I think this is what Craig is alluding to. This is coming from Jack George, and it's our question of the week. Well done, Jack. You win a $100 voucher for Outback Steakhouse. Has Tim Cahill ever given you credit for the assist to his volley against the Netherlands at the World Cup in 2014?
Yeah, he gave me like a sly pat on the back, good ball, but then that was it. That's what I've heard from. But no, yeah, it's that again. That's definitely something that I've luckily enough been involved in, and Maury was there in terms of told the story before a little bit. I think I was the Stephen Bradbury of that sort of World Cup in terms of I thought I was on the fringes of even making the squad. Lucky enough to make the squad as I believe the sort of good trainer / squad player / if needed in an emergency could play. And unlucky enough for Franic, he pulled his hamstring in the first game and I got chucked on, and then then I think Millsy was going to play right back and he kind of got injured, and then seemed to be that I was the last man standing and played.
Hey, the puzzle just fell into place, mate. That's what happens.
Yeah, sometimes it works like that, and
you got to be ready to be that. And that's the thing, mate. I can see you're just such a humble guy, and you're willing to accept that role at any level, and your career says that as well. And that's a big thing for young kids to know as well, because to have success and to have a career, you actually need to be humble and wait for opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big believer in doing the things that are free or doing the things that you can control. So, it's like when you go to primary school, be a good role model in terms of, you listen to your coaches, you be on time, you work hard every day, whether you're playing, whether you're not playing, whether you're the star player, whether you're the 15th man in terms of how you can apply yourself, and just be a good person, to be honest, at the end of the day. And I think if you do all those things, then that rubs off on other people. And I don't think you can ever have too many good teammates in terms of, even at Sydney, if you're not playing, you still get the players being or wanting you to do well. That's how it feels. There's no sort of divide in that. And even more so when you represent Australia, you should be so lucky to be involved in that. So anytime I'm called up, I'm just delighted to be there. And if that's me training well against the starting 11 or being involved or making sure that I'm doing the right things for set pieces, then that's what you do. And if you're fortunate enough to play, then you've done all the right things in training to give yourself that best opportunity if you do get the chance. And lucky enough I did.
Ryan, you've had a terrific career, and hopefully it's going to go on for a few more years yet. Before we let you go, last question. It's coming from Twitter, again from Ben Archer. It's a two-pronged question, actually. First of all, where do you think Sydney FC would finish if they played in the Scottish Premier League or the Chinese Super League? And a second part to that, what is the funniest sledge or chant you've heard during your career?
Oh. There's a few good ones in Scotland, to be honest. I'm not sure if I can repeat a few of them.
Go on.
You can repeat anything on this show, mate. It doesn't go out anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure at Easter Road at Hibs when we played there. So I was right back. So I used to be like right along the fans.
Oh, mate, they're grubs there as well.
Yeah, and a few of the good shouts. You know, to enjoy playing there because like that's probably part of it as well. The banter and the sort of, especially in Scotland, it's kind of a free hit. You can meet anyone from any age, and they just go for you in the streets in terms of they're not humble, Jimmy. Well, you know what it's like. It's like a Monday.
Right,
you're at the shops, just getting your, sort of bits and pieces, and someone will just come out to you and nowhere and just go, "You're shy at the weekend."
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I have a photo? And
you shouldn't even be showing your face, mate. You were shy at the weekend. They're savage.
So probably Scotland's the best one in terms of like the banter that you get from opposing fans. I always get asked that question in terms of like, when I come here, everyone thinks, how would Scottish teams do in the A-League? And then when I get to Australia, everyone asks. It's difficult. In Scotland, you've got good teams. Probably the big four clubs would laugh at if I said that they wouldn't win the A-League. And then at the same time, if I said that, Sydney, I think they'll do pretty well in the Scottish Premier League. We've got some good players in our team. So, it's different. I would like to see a few Scottish
you're being
teams.
nice there.
I think it's just a mentality.
Go on, Maury, tell us where they would be.
No. I just think Gaz, it's a mentality because you know what it's like, Gaz, in Scotland. Like every day means something. Training wise, mate, because everyone wants to play. So that competition on a daily basis, they'll support you in terms of the weekend and whoever's starting and all that sort of stuff. But it's a competition that I think that they get on a day-to-day basis that we still don't get at most places in Australia that would fare them better over a season. They would come out but it's hard. It's like, how do you compare it to?
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes, like you said, in touches of culture, in terms of players that aren't playing, I feel like in Scotland or in Europe as such, players that aren't playing work harder. And I'm not saying this in terms of in Sydney because our squad's been really good, but in terms of just looking from an outside, it's been my first year in the A-League, and you see players, I'm not playing, or I've not been given an opportunity, I've not been given a chance, and they just kind of think that's that. Whereas you don't have that over here. If you're not getting an opportunity or you're not getting a chance, you do something about it. You work harder, or you make sure you're the fittest one, or you make sure you're stronger, or you make sure that you're better with your weaker foot. You just don't get given opportunities because you're a good youth team player, or you've done well at NPL level, or you've played for 20 minutes the week before and created a chance. That's kind of your role as a substitute, is to make a difference. And that's probably that's where, again, like opportunities, or we're very fortunate in Australia to have so many different things that we can do. So it's that's probably the difference in terms of even when you're starting and you're playing week in, week out in Europe, there's probably 4 or 5 people that are working just as hard as you, if not harder, to try and take your place if you do slip up. And hopefully in the coming years we can have that in Australia. And
it's a good message, Gowser. It's a really good message for the Australian player, that just because you're not playing doesn't mean that you look for excuses. You walk about the changing room sort of like your lip dragging along the floor. That's when you've got to be even more positive. I think that's a great message for anybody that's not playing. You have to work harder.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, I remember as a young player being a little bit wet between the ears and being like, I feel like I should be playing. And Andy Webster, remember him?
Yeah. Central defender, yeah.
I remember he must have seen that I was moping around, and he pulled me on a Tuesday. He's like, "What right do you have to think that you should play?" I remember just being like, "Oh, I've trained well, and I just feel like I'm ready to play." And he's like, "I've represented Scotland. I've played at big clubs. I've played over 200 senior games. You've played 20 minutes, and you think you can't train as well because you're a little bit annoyed that you didn't play at the weekend." And I think sometimes you need those players at your clubs, and we've definitely got it at Sydney in terms of keeping the standards high and making sure that you need to be not only training well for a couple of weeks, you need to be doing that week on week, month on month, to be until everyone in the squad's thinking, why is this player not getting that opportunity?
Mate, that's a great message, mate. That is fair income, a great message, and it shows why Sydney FC's had so much success. I always say that in every dressing room there should be a big bloody mirror, so players can actually look at themselves in the mirror and not go around blaming other people all the time.
You're too tall for the mirror, Spider, unfortunately. Guys, we're going to have to leave it there because we're running out of time, and I think we should let Ryan get some sleep as well. Hey, Gaz, thank you so much for joining us. I know it was an awkward time over there in the UK, but we really appreciate it. Congrats again on your grand final success, and look forward to seeing you back in Australia very soon, mate.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much for having me on.
Right. Enjoy your holiday, mate.
Thanks very much, Ryan. And that is us for another week. Thanks again to you for listening. We're now up to well over 12,000 downloads of our episodes, and we're closing in on 1,500 Twitter followers. And providing the alarm clock works in Greece, I'll be back with Spider and Maury at the same time, same place next week. Until then, bye for now.